Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. We'll see if there's still a few more people coming in. So let me just introduce myself. My name is Bonnie McDaniel, and I am a member of the Balance in Mind team. And I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm happy that you all are here with us this evening for a workshop with Michelle Brode, Your Family at Its Best. I want to take a minute to let you know a few things about the webinar. We will be, it's going to be interactive, so do feel free to write in the chat, or you can use the Q&A function if you want to send a question to us, and we'll keep an eye on the chat. And so now I want to introduce our speaker this evening, Michelle Brode, and let me see if I can find her slide to introduce to her. There we go. Michelle is a mental health professional. She was with us last year when she was working at Youth Eastside Services. These days, Michelle is consulting with schools and other youth serving organizations and is a national trainer for teen mental health first aid and supports parents around the country through parent coaching. Michelle is passionate about creative expression, positive psychology, and supporting the adults who support our youth. You can find her if you'd like to connect with Michelle at www.michellebrode.com. Welcome, Michelle. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for that warm welcome. And I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I know that those of you who have come to parent chats before have come wanting to gain new knowledge and gain strategies and skills to make things better for your family. And so I'm thrilled that you're here to take a different approach to experiencing your family at its best. Before we get started, there are a couple of things. One is I would love for you to have paper to write on. I'm gonna be old school about this and say I think paper and pen, and if you have colored pens or multiple pens, that could be fun. But if not, feel free to take notes in whatever way makes the most sense for you. But I do want you to have a way to capture what we're doing tonight. I also invite you to make sure that you have the chat open. So I know a lot of us have been in probably more Zoom meetings than we care to think of over the past couple of years. But if you could make sure that you have the chat open, because there are times that I'll be inviting you to do something, to reflect on something. And it's easier if you can both see the words that I'm saying, which I'll put in the chat, as well as hearing them. So if you need any instruction on how to keep the chat open, if you're in full screen mode where Zoom is taking up your whole screen right now, you'll want to minimize it so that it's just a window, and then click on chat at the bottom, and that will keep the chat box open alongside your view of the screen. So I would like to share my PowerPoint. And what I would love to do, first of all, is to invite you to just put down all the stuff that you brought with you for tonight. So this is an invitation to just give yourself an hour to settle in and to be here and to participate fully. And like literally, if you need to write the words, all the stuff on a piece of paper and tear it off the pad and set it aside, all the stuff will be there for you when we're done. All the stuff will be there for you when you're ready to come back to it. And just give yourself the space to set all the stuff aside and be here and be with us tonight. All right. So next, I invite you to just settle in. I've been in enough Zoom meetings where we have had meditations or had the opportunity to settle in. And I know sometimes if I'm feeling a little cranky or impatient, that I am inclined to do other things while the settling in is being led. So I invite you to really take this opportunity to just settle in. If it's comfortable to close your eyes, you may close your eyes. If you don't want to close your eyes right now, maybe just soften your gaze and focus somewhere gently in front of you. And just take a moment to feel what your breath feels like right now. Just feel the air coming in. Feel the air going out. No need to change anything. No need to judge. No need to do anything differently. Just let the air flow into your body and let the air flow out of your body. Maybe take a moment to see if you can perceive your heartbeat right now. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. Whatever it is in this moment is what it is in this moment. Where do you feel the heartbeat in your body? Do you feel the heartbeat in your body? And come back, noticing the sensation of your feet on the floor. Come back to noticing your breath. And if your mind is thinking, that's what your mind does. Minds think thoughts. And right now, you can just let those thoughts float by you like clouds floating gently away. And just come into this moment with a sense of friendliness towards whatever is, a sense of curiosity, and a sense of playfulness. So we're going to have fun over the next hour, thinking about making plans for, dreaming of your family at its best. Okay. When you feel ready, maybe let your eyes flutter open or let your gaze come back to focus. If you need to stretch, I usually like to stretch after a meditation. You can do that. Shake your hands out if you want. And just come on back to this space. So what I would love to do is to have you put in the chat something that you are looking forward to getting from tonight's session. You might not know what it is yet, but kind of just think like, okay, if I got what I came for tonight, what might that be? What might that look like? And I will look forward to seeing that in the chat, a sense of wonder. Oh, and I invite you to make sure that you are sending it to everyone, which is your choice, which is one of your choices under the to bar. There are several options, but everyone would be great. So Stacy's looking for a sense of wonder. Thank you. Curious what else people are looking for. Reframing what happiness looks like. A little clarity about what I want from my family life. Harmony between family members. Thank you. Great. Reassurance. Doing my best. Absolutely. We are all putting one foot in front of the other and hoping it's our best each day. Fabulous. Thank you. I'll watch for more as they come in. But let me share with you, I know that at times like this, where people are feeling challenged and overwhelmed and burdened, that it can feel like a little contradictory or a little countercultural to focus on our family at our best. So let me just share that tonight is really all about the and. Things are genuinely really hard right now. That is true. And we can also notice what's good. We can also tap into what's good. I was thinking earlier today, I have a beloved aunt who died a couple of years ago. And in the later years of her life, she had gone on vacation once. And while she was on vacation, she got pneumonia or something like that and ended up in the hospital. And after being in the hospital, ended up in a rehab center. And when I called her as she was recovering, and I was expecting her to be fairly disappointed that her vacation had been interrupted by this health issue, I got her on the phone and she was like, Michelle, I can't tell you how wonderful everyone has been. Everyone has taken such good care of me. Everyone is so good at their jobs. I am so lucky that this happened to me here. I've just encountered the best people. And it was such a beautiful example of taking in that and, right? This thing happened on my vacation that I didn't want. And I've gotten really good care. And I'm really lucky that I have these people taking care of me. So I just want to tap into that notion that even in the worst of situations, there is kindness. Even in the worst of situations, humans tap into humor to get by. And so turning our attention to what's good doesn't mean that we're negating or we're denying or we're squeezing out what's hard or what's painful or what causes us sorrow, but it's about making space for both, that things are really hard and that we can tap into what's good right now. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and thank you for the continuing contributions to the chat. I want to say before we start moving through some of our exercises for tonight that we might be using unfamiliar muscles in the next little while. And when we do things that are unfamiliar, sometimes we feel uncomfortable. So I just want to set the invitation for you to try new things, to give yourself grace if you're not quite sure how. We're not doing anything risky. We're not doing anything super out of bounds, but sometimes when we're doing something we're unfamiliar with, it can just feel a little edgy. And I invite you to participate in whatever way feels most comfortable to you, most supportive for you. So as I get started with introducing the next part of our evening, I would love for you to put in the chat, if you're willing, how many people are there in your household? I just want a number, and this will help me navigate the next part. So if your household is you and one child, that would be 2 people, and you can keep doing the math from there. So thank you. Helpful for me to see those numbers coming in. It helps me figure out pacing as we go forward. Okay, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. I'm seeing some trends. Very good. So the next part of what we're doing is that in a moment, I am going to share a list of traits with you. And these are traits that are found in folks from every culture in all parts of the world. And what I would like you to do is to write down the name of each person in your household. And next to their name, I would like you to write down the traits from the image that I'm about to share with you that you see in that person. So there is a variety of household size here. So some people may have more people to reflect on than others. So if you have more time, in addition to writing down the traits for each person in your household, including you, you can also write down, for instance, when you see this trait expressed. Okay, so I'm going to, I will put those directions in the chat in just a moment, but let me, oops, excuse me. Every time I share my screen, everything gets rearranged for me. So give me one moment to bring things back to where I want them. Okay, so here are the traits. I will jot the directions in the chat, and then I'm going to mute myself and we can take about 3 minutes to do this exercise. So let me share this with you and then go ahead and take 3 minutes to name the people in your family and the traits that you see in them. We'll be coming back together in about 30 seconds. Great, thank you. So I'm curious if folks want to just drop in the chat some of the traits that they see in their family members. Feel free to just drop the trait in rather than needing to attach it person by person, as you might have on your piece of paper. And a participant shared with a couple of us that they see a lot of these traits in their family members at different times, which is a really neat reflection. Yeah. So love, something that we see. Perseverance. Thank you. So this list, as people are putting some of those traits in the chat, I see humor and creativity coming in as well. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner of this image that these are the VIA character strengths. It stands for values in actions. And this is part of the positive psychology movement. These strengths were identified through a research-oriented process and developed by Chris Peterson and Martin Seligman, who are some of the founders of the positive psychology movement. And what we know based on research is that when we are using our strengths, we tend to experience more positive emotion. We tend to be more productive. We tend to feel more alive. So there's a lot in our culture that's about kind of fixing our flaws. And it turns out that only gets us so far. There are times that we do need to focus on those things, but it turns out we have a lot more power and we get a lot further when we focus on utilizing our strengths. So let me share in the chat. You know what? I forgot to tell you something I meant to, which is that I would love for you to be putting headings on your paper or wherever you're taking notes as we go along. So the heading for this section, you can call strengths, okay? So up at the top above that, you can put strengths. And our invitation for a next step, and I'm going to put this in the chat, is what could you do this week to help this person, if you're looking at one individual person in your family, to express one of their strengths more often this week? That should include you. Right? So we're not going to be able to do everything in our 1 hour together, but I want you to jot down this next step on your paper. How could you help each member of your family express that trait more? Now that maybe in one given week, you're not going to be able to do that for everybody, but pick someone this week and say, I'm going to look for a way to help engage their sense of humor. I'm going to look for a way to more actively engage my strength of forgiveness. I'm going to look for a way to help this person bring out their creativity. And we know that when we tap into strengths, we're really working with what is powerful and strong in each member of our family. So there's an invitation for what's next. So I encourage you to capture that next step. All right. The next heading I would love for you to put on your paper is called 3 Good Things. And here we have it on the screen. So I want you to take a moment to think about 3 good things from the past week. They could relate to your family. Could be one of your kids saying, thank you. Always an exciting moment. Or it could be a moment of connection that felt good. Your 3 good things may relate to your family. Your 3 good things may not relate to your family, but I'm going to give you a moment where I will mute myself and I invite you to write down 3 good things from your past week. Okay. So as we come back together, if any of you would like to put one of your 3 good things in the chat, we'd love to see what they are. I want to acknowledge that sometimes this feels really hard, that sometimes we can have weeks that are so deeply challenging that finding 3 good things feels like a really heavy lift. And I want to share with you that this is a muscle that gets better with practice, right? When we read about people who have lived through situations involving war and famine, we know that people who survive and who are able to come through excruciatingly painful, difficult situations are people who are able to find the good even in the most challenging times. So we have a 50-year-old who took initiative to do something healthy instead of sitting on a screen. We have time to move at a slower pace and enjoy simple things, able to have good conversations with old friends, right? So we think about sometimes in these pandemic times, like travel doesn't feel as easy or having large celebrations doesn't feel as accessible. However, we've got little things that we can still point to. And our challenge is to learn to make time for it, to create the invitation for it. Peggy's daughter suggested a meal for tonight. Kristen says family study hour, highs, lows, kindness discussion started by your 14-year-old. Awesome. Working with my teen boy on a project at midnight in my robe. Yes. So there are all sorts of ways that we can look for the good even when we are feeling challenged. Again, research shows that people who consistently practice writing down 3 good things from their day experience more positive emotion and tend to report greater levels of happiness. So I want you to think about as an invitation for a next step to find ways that you can make a practice of this. So find a time each day, or if we're trying not to invoke our perfectionistic tendencies, find a time most days to write down 3 good things from your day and think about what might support you in doing this. If you do it right before bed, or if you do it first thing in the morning or at the end of your workday, perhaps you want to set a reminder on your phone to prompt you to do this. And if it feels hard, that's probably a hint that this would be a really good practice to engage in. And there are days that it feels hard, and give yourself permission to say this is really hard right now, and I know there's value in doing it. And sometimes I've noticed when I do this as a regular practice, I kind of notice like, oh, it's getting closer to bedtime. What are my 3 good things? And sometimes I'll have to go create a good thing to make sure that I have something to add to my list. And so this has a dynamic impact where the more we look for good things, the more we see good things. And again, it's not squeezing out the bad, it's not ignoring or denying the challenges, it's making space for both of those things to coexist. All right. And there we have our 3 good things. All right, here's the next heading I would love for you to put on your paper. Ooh, I just noticed that Grace added to the chat also that she found something she thought was lost forever. That's a really good thing. Okay, so here's your next heading. Honoring your needs. All right. So when we think about honoring your needs, my first question for you, and I would love for you to write down a response to this, is what do you need more of right now? Take a moment to think about what do you need more of right now. I'll give you a half a minute to jot some ideas down. Often when I ask people this question, I hear responses like these that I just put up. People may feel like they need more quiet, more rest, more time with good people, more downtime, whether that's listening to music or reading a book for pleasure, more ease, more laughter, more simplicity. I imagine that you have things on your list that are not on my list. And it's important to hold those close to you, right? And to remember, what is it that you need more of right now? I'm going to ask an additional question that I would love for you to write down the question and write down your responses to. What do you need less of right now? I'll give you another 30 seconds to jot down your list of what you need less of right now. Okay. Often when I ask people this question, I get answers like this. I need less hassle. I need less annoyance, uncertainty, fear, whining, laundry. There are any number of things that we can put on our list. So we've captured what we want more of and what we want less of. My last question for you in this section of honoring your needs is, what do you really, really want right now? So before you start writing, let me just say that there's often tenderness around a question like this, right? There can be tenderness around wanting something that we don't have in the moment. And so if you find that there are thoughts showing up or feelings showing up that are feeling tender around what you really, really want right now, I invite you to be gentle with yourself. Maybe take a few calming breaths, count slowly up to 10 and back. Just remember that the life cycle of an emotion is generally pretty short, and tell yourself it's okay to feel this way and that the feeling won't last forever. But let me invite you, I'll give you another half a moment to write down, what do you really, really want right now? Don't judge your answers. Write down anything you want. What do you really want right now? Awesome. My next question for you is, what's the smallest step that you could take in the direction of what you want? So think about the things you wanted more of, the things you wanted less of, what you really, really want right now, and think about what's the smallest step. Let me give you a couple of examples. One is, for instance, if you need more downtime, is it possible that you could make a sign that you put on the outside of a door to whatever room you want to hide in that says, unless you are sick or bleeding, please do not knock? And take 5 minutes for yourself, take 10 minutes for yourself, take a half an hour for yourself, depending on the age and needs of your family members. So can you create space that way? I recently was telling a friend that my produce bin is full of good intentions. I buy all these vegetables every week. When it comes time to needing to prepare them, I don't feel like doing it, and these vegetables do not get eaten. And they said, could you go to PCC and buy some prepared vegetables? And that way, rather than throwing away food, you might actually eat the food. And it was one of the simplest things I could have done that has made a really big difference, right? So I just needed to give myself permission to do that. So I invite you to think about what's the smallest step you could take in the direction of what you want more of, or what you want less of, or something you really want right now. And I want it to be small enough that it's something you could do this week. And I want it to be something you'd be excited to do. So I'll give you another half a moment to jot down. Think of small steps. Okay. Sometimes it is hard for us to see a new way of doing things. It would have never occurred to me to stop buying the vegetables at the grocery store and just go and get some of the some of the prepared foods that will actually help me. And I've noticed my family members eat more fresh foods. And it took somebody else to say, could you try it this way? So if you're feeling stuck, if you're like, I just don't know what I would do to take a small step in that direction, I invite you to find somebody to brainstorm with, a friend, a coworker, a member of your family. I'll give you my contact information at the end of the evening, but just see if maybe getting somebody else into the conversation can help you expand your thinking about how to do that. Let me ask, I'd love to hear some responses in the chat. How does honoring your needs connect to our theme of your family at its best? What's the relationship between talking about your needs and talking about your family at its best? I'll give you wise folks a moment to jot something into the chat. I see a couple people saying you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't take care of others unless you take care of yourself first. It's so true. Like the closer we are to being calm and centered, and honoring our needs is an important piece of staying calm and centered, the better able we are to help our family members stay calm and centered. And when I saw what some of you are looking for in our workshop tonight, it's ways to help your family members feel calm and centered, right? We also see in the chat setting boundaries and sticking to them, right? Your needs matter as well. And so it's really important. Bonnie says, my kids are more sensitive to my moods than I like to think. And if I'm drained, they can sense that. When I'm happy, they can sense that too, right? So we're modeling for the young people in our lives, and we're modeling for the folks that we live with, ways that we stay balanced and ways that we take good care of ourselves so that we can help them do the same. Okay, I'm trying to reorganize my screen here one more time. Forgive me. Okay, so here's what I would like you to do next. I would love for you to jot the next heading on your paper. Your paper should be prompts and images. I will type that in the chat. The next heading is prompts and images. So this is what I will do in a moment is that I will share some images with you, and I will also share a prompt. I'll do that both out loud and I'll share it in the chat. The invitation is to find the image that feels like your response to that prompt in this moment. I will say, for those of us who like to do things right, and I am one of those people, that there are no right answers here. There are no wrong answers here. For those of us who really like to get things right, this can feel a little provocative. So just remember, you're safe. You're sitting in your home and you're looking at a screen full of images and you're wondering which one of these seems like closest to my answer to this prompt right now. You can choose an image. You can let an image jump out at you. And I invite you to somehow capture the image, whether you want to take a screenshot or you want to use your phone, or even if you just want to write down what the image is. And then I want you to write a sentence or two about how it relates to the prompt. Okay, there may be logic and reasoning behind why that feels like your answer to that prompt. There may be no logic and no reasoning. It's all good. You are just kind of free associating here. So in a moment, let me put in the chat. Our first prompt is something that I am proud of. That's in the chat, and then I will share my screen. Something I am proud of, and I'll give you a moment to choose an image, write a few sentences about it. Take another 10 seconds to just finish what you're jotting down now. Have more time to look back on this later in your own time. I'm going to share a new prompt and a new set of images with you. So the new prompt is, what I appreciate about my family is, and there are some new images. Okay, you can pause. And again, you're welcome to come back to this later. Write down the name of the image you chose or take a screenshot of it if you want. I'm going to share one more prompt with you and one more set of images. So our last prompt is, at our best, our family is, and here are some new images. Go ahead and take a moment to jot that down. Take about 10 more seconds on this one. Fabulous. And I'm going to stop screen sharing. So if anybody would like to share one of your responses, I invite you to put that in the chat. So you can tell us your prompt and you can tell us what you chose or how it relates. Sometimes there's like a direct analogy that people will talk about, or sometimes it relates to the colors or just the sensation that the picture gives them, like something feels strong, or it feels varied, or it feels hopeful. So if you want to share any of those thoughts, you are absolutely invited to. And if you do not want to share, that is also totally okay. I'm going to drop into the chat ways that you can take this forward in your week. And so I invite you, if you're not typing in the chat right now, to maybe jot down a few ideas for yourself about how could you keep this image in front of you, or one of these 3 images in front of you, perhaps with a few of the keywords that you wrote down. So if you took a screenshot, or if you took a picture on your phone, or even if you just want to Google an image like that, how could you keep that image in front of you? Would you want to print it out and put it somewhere that you'll see it with regularity? Do you want to make it a screensaver on your phone? Do you want to make it a background on one of your devices? How can you keep this image and keep the words that you associate with it in front of you? All right. So the prompt was, what I appreciate about my family is, and the image was a person holding a candle. It represents spirituality, warmth, and security. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there's so many ways that we can approach this exercise. Thank you for sharing that. The prompt was, what do you feel proud about? The slinky was the image I picked. The slinky represents something that shouldn't keep moving, but somehow it does. It keeps putting one brave slinky foot in front of the other. Thank you. Thank you. I will watch for more of those responses coming in. I see another. Proud of hummingbird. We stop on our walks to look up and see the birds in the trees. And sometimes it's a hummingbird. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Right, so keeping these images in front of us can be a way of connecting with what we feel proud of and what we appreciate, and what our family at our best may be like. All right. So what I'd like to do in our last several minutes together, something I was proud of was the mountain image. Awesome. Thank you. Sometimes we have words to put to that, like why it is or how it connects. And sometimes it's just a felt sensation, like, I don't know what it is, but I know that's it. So thank you for sharing that. Let me, in our last few minutes together, actually, before I screen share, let me pause for a second. I want to point out, thank you. There was more to that. In addition to the mountain image, because we completed a Mount Rainier hike as a family after getting COVID during the summer. Yeah, so it relates to an experience that you as a family had together. Awesome. So what I'd love for you to do is to look over your notes. And you can see that in addition to what we thought about, what we worked with here during our time together, I also invited you to make some plans. And I invite you to take a moment to review those plans. We talked about how you could bring out one of your strengths or the strength of a family member this week. We talked about how you could more routinely pay attention to 3 good things from your day. We talked about how you could honor your needs more, even if it's just 10% more. How could you bring your own needs into the mix? And we also talked about how you could stay connected to what makes you proud, what you appreciate, your image of your family at its best. So invitation to you, if you have a favorite plan of the plans that we made today, I invite you to drop that in the chat. Sometimes this can be a way of like encouraging ourselves to commit to this plan. We kind of give power to our intentions if we share them. And so I invite you to challenge yourself to share them, to be brave, and to add some power to your intentions. So I see one commitment to 3 good things, right? It's such such a great way to make sure that we are bringing some positivity into our awareness each day. Those things are there, whether or not you pay attention to them, but we bring them into our awareness and it means we get to experience it more deeply. And that's a really neat benefit that does not take a lot of time or a lot of energy to do. So I want to take a peek behind the curtain with you and just share some of these positive psychology practices. In addition to my mental health training and my training as a parent coach, I have a certificate in positive psychology. And positive psychology is the scientific study of human well-being. We know that, and so originally psychology was focused on mental illness and how to recognize and treat mental illness and get folks back to a baseline of good health. But 30, 40 years ago, a prominent psychologist said, I think there's more to life than not being mentally ill. And how can we focus the field of psychology on what helps people thrive, what helps people feel alive, what helps people be at their best? And so that was really the foundation of positive psychology. So here are some positive psychology practices that we have done over the course of the past hour. We've paused and centered, just being present in the moment. We invited the and, right? Acknowledging that good things can coexist alongside difficult things, and that when we can hold those two together, we create the opportunity to experience a wider range of emotions. We gave ourselves permission to try new things, to feel uncomfortable if we feel uncomfortable, to feel not great at something if it was new to us. We focused on character strengths. If that's something that interests you or anyone in your family, there are lots of character strength inventories online that can be fun to do. The 3 good things is a way of practicing gratitude, right? Of noticing what's good and appreciating it. You can take it to the next step if you want by thanking somebody for something they might have done that contributed to one of your good things for the day. Honoring our needs, knowing our boundaries, knowing that our happiness, our well-being matters, and that we can only be there for others when we are taking good care of ourselves. So important. We worked with sentence stems in that last part where we were looking at images, and you can look up things like positive psychology sentence stems or positive psychology journal prompts. And just know with sentence stems, there are no right or wrong answers. There are only your answers. And making space for like, how can I fill these things in? And sometimes it's fun depending on, what your kids are like, what kind of mood they're in, what ages they are, to provide them with some sentence stems and like, how many answers can you come up to with things I like to do that other people don't like to do, or things I'm good at, or things other people think I'm good at, right? So you can find some fun or just good journal prompts for yourself in working with sentence stems. I am also a visual artist. And so had we been in a room together tonight, I would have brought a crate of magazines. And when I was giving you some of those sentence stems or asking some of those questions, I would have had you page through those magazines and find images that spoke to you. So providing those images the way that I did was kind of my Zoom way of doing that. But just know that you have that opportunity also, right? You could ask yourself, what do I really need right now? And page through something with images and just see like what stands out to you, right? Maybe some bird will show up. You have no idea. Like, what does this have to do with what I need right now? But tear it out and just write about it. Like, all right, bird, what do you have to do with what I need right now? And just be playful and invite other ways of knowing. We are so dedicated to thinking, that sometimes we forget to tap into other ways of knowing. And then most importantly is that we paired our dreaming tonight with planning. And it's really important to go from this is what I want, or this is what I see, or this is what I know would be good, to making plans to do that. So I see a couple other folks in the chat have written 3 good things to start my day, work on engaging one strength for each family member. It's in the doing that things change. It's in the doing that we can create shifts. So knowing is important, but it is not everything. And so I invite you to pair the knowing, I invite you to pair the wanting and the dreaming with planning as well. The magic is in the doing. Doing without dreaming also has its limitations, so keep the two together, dreaming and planning. I am so thrilled to have been back here. I haven't been here for Balance in Mind for a while. So thank you so much to the folks at Balance in Mind. And if I can be of assistance to any of you, if you want to think through any of your answers or any strategies around what we did tonight, I invite you to reach out to me. My email address is michelle@michellebrode.com. You're also welcome to check out my website, which is www.michellebrode.com. And thank you all for giving yourselves and your families the gift of envisioning yourselves at your best. So I thank you so much for being here tonight, and I wish you all well.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I do not seem to have my video available, but in any event, next week on Parent Chat, Joe Langford will be with us, and he's going to talk to us all about cancel culture, what parents need to know, and how to talk to your kids about it. You can find us on Facebook at Balance in Mind, all one word. And then if you are motivated, if you'd like to keep programs like this free to our community, you can visit lwsf.org to donate so that we can keep these programs free and other great programs by the Lake Washington Schools Foundation. We'd like to ask you to try a quick poll here to give a little bit of feedback on if this was useful to you or not. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. Can you see that, Michelle? Okay. And while you fill that out, I'm going to read a quote. I found this, was thinking about this topic. I'm a big fan of Rick Hansen, and he has a podcast called Being Well. And so he has some guest speakers on that. And one of the speakers was Jane Baratz, and he's talking about awakening joy in difficult times. And his quote is this: "An optimist isn't necessarily a blithe, slightly sappy whistler in the dark of our time. To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It's based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction." So I liked that, and I decided I'd like to leave you all with that thought. I hope you got something out of this. Looks like most people did and enjoyed this, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.